complicit. What kind of a book has it become?
That's an interesting question. I mean, it's a book really that we start. That's we have different kinds of inspiration. This one, it really started from almost a single moment. It was almost like a photograph. We both talked about this idea of just an image that haunted us of a woman standing in a flat, and at her feet is a body. And we really had two questions that we then wanted to answer, which is, how did she get there and what happens next? And we wanted to really write a book that told those two stories at the same time.
So it's two stories that are told simultaneously, and we kind of go backwards to get there and forwards to explain what's happened. And in a lot of the novels we write, they have a kind of linear direction, so you set off on a journey. But this, it's more like a kind of a maelstrom, like a circle that's getting closer and closer to that image, so the final and the two time points come together on the final page.
And what is the book about? What would you say is the book about?
Well, that's a very challenging question. It's about, I mean, in a way, it's an interesting idea that one of the things we do again. We often start with a simple idea, and then we sort of you create a kind of a story around it and a setting for it, and then you gradually find what the book's about. And the various but that's yes. I think as you're writing it, it's like it's like chipping away at it, and
during the process.
Yes, during the process, you find your book, and I think there are many things. I mean, one theme of the book, or one thing that it's about the strangeness of our feelings. Why is it that why are people attracted to people? Why do we desire people that we're frightened of? Life would be very simple if we just fell in love or was attracted to nice people. But this is a book in which people, they're attracted to people they're frightened of, and the people that they like, they're not attracted to. And it's a story in which people are friends, but people are betrayed by their friends as much as by their enemies. So that, I think it was about the strangeness of human feelings.
And it is about how we endlessly deceive ourselves and deceive those people we're closest to. It's a book of kind of deception and misdirection, if you like. And also, I think one of the things that we talked a lot about as we were writing it is, there's a kind of myth of the coherent self. And in this book, the coherent self.
Okay.
And in this book, I think that, we're presenting people who have lots of different selves. Everyone is different in different relationships. And, at the heart, in the novel, one of the things that kind of binds the plot together is that there is a group of people who come together to play in a band for a wedding that will occur at the end of the book. And that was kind of fun to do, and it was a way of bringing people together. But also there was a reason that we chose that, which was that, often when we're really, as people who aren't musicians at all ourselves, and we don't play any instruments, but we're fascinated by how people can communicate not verbally, and people who don't like each other or don't get on with each other or are jangly and hostile, when they play together, they suddenly can be like lovers in their music. They can have duets. They can like each other in their music when they don't like each other in life. So we have this group of people who are hostile and mistrustful and are lying to each other. But actually, when they play music, they can get on and do it beautifully. And it was like a metaphor almost for the novel we discovered as we wrote it.
I felt the book might also be about how difficult friendship is.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the... it's almost an obsession of ours, is how the people who can... most of us, the damage is done to us not by enemies or by serial killers or predators. The people who can really hurt us are our friends or our lovers or our family, because they're the people who know our weak spots. They know where
where to hit us.
Exactly. And I think that people, I think that's absolutely right. And friends are dangerous. I think.
Also, and friendship is such a strained relationship. There's absolutely no kind of obligation with friendship. You kind of choose your friends, and then you can leave your friends as well. There's nothing that binds you except for the fact that you're friends.
Strings attached.
And no, exactly.
Well, there aren't duties. I mean, almost every other relationship, you know, if you're working with people, you know, you have a contract. You have a, you know, this is what your duties involved. But friendship is strange, and it's sort of it's a peculiar thing, and people. And there's no, with other things, there's a kind of code, you know, even with lovers, you can go through the stages of a love affair, but what are the stages of a friendship? You know, we all know about what happens with lovers when they grow, you know, or people who are married, they drift apart. But what happens to friends when they drift apart? How do you end a friendship? How do you decide that someone isn't your friend anymore? You know, and
and there are lots of friends. You know, I think there are lots of friends who don't really like each other. You know, why are they friends? They don't really
like lovers.
Like lovers, but
absolutely like lovers. I mean, that's the thing. It's amazing. I think that's interesting. How, you know, why can you desire someone you don't like? I think that's true. People are friends with people who bully them. People are friends with people who lie to them. And so in a way, it's about this.
Did you find an answer to this question?
Do you know, I think one of the things, if we had an answer, we would, sorry.
Yeah, no, because there is no answer to that question. There is no answer to that question. It's just this endless question, and every friendship is very different. And in fact, one of the things I think about friendship is that, you know, if you can achieve good friendships, then there's something really pure and wonderful about a good friendship where you're loyal to each other. But it happens quite rarely, I think. Usually there's a lot of deception that goes on, or also because you put other people before your friends, don't you? You know, you put your lover before your friend, your children before your friend, your parents before your friends.
I can almost give an image of which we just came across after we'd written the book. We just watched this documentary about the Beatles, and almost the most poignant bit of the film was seeing again something I hadn't seen for many years, the famous scene where the last time the Beatles ever played in public, they went up on the roof of their studio and they played Get Back, and it's very beautiful. It's almost like they're teenagers again. They're having a great time. They look like they're playing like lovers, like people who love each other, who have been friends since they were children. And yet the moment they put the instruments down, they went back, they hated each other, they were lying to each other, suing each other, they knew they were about to finish. And yet when they were playing music, it was all forgotten. And there's that, you know, that was a sort of, I suddenly thought, I reckon, you know, that's what we were trying to capture in this book.
At the end of the book, your main character is stressing the meaning of the life of a human being. Is that what you wanted to tell us?
Well, that's a very big question.
Was it in a way?
Well, in the end, she seems to find out the meaning of.
Does she?
Yeah.
What does she find? I mean, you know, in a way, I think that every time we write a book, really deep down, buried somewhere, there is this question: what is it to be alive in 2009? What is it? How odd and strange and hard it is to be human. How hard it is to kind of live a good life and do the right thing. So that's always a question. But
can I say at the conclusion? I mean, I want to be very careful answering this question because I think of almost all the books we've ever written, I want to be very careful not to give away how this one ends.
No,
but what I will say is one of the points of this book is about we're saying this is a story of friendship, and it's about betrayal of friendship, and also about can you do a bad thing for a friend to help to save a friend. And I would say that it's about someone who does something, you know, who goes over the edge, who goes beyond the limit for friendship, and maybe at the end it's about discovering you have to discover the real cost of what you've done. I think that's what we were trying to
That's what
show.
you were stressing in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, and does that mean that you're that all these I think you wrote 11 of them books.
This is the 12th, number 12. Yeah.
But this is what you yourself are stressing and telling your audience.
Well, we are obsessed with the kind of the little steps by which your normal life can tip over into horror and into fear, and so one of the things we have, and so all our stories really come out of Nicci and me arguing about these things, discussing them. You know, what would happen if this happened, and one of those conversations we have had over and over again is, what would you do for a friendship? What if a friend asked you to do about something wrong? What if you owed a favour to a friend? Well, you know, and so what we don't know. I think what we never have is an answer to these questions, because there isn't an answer. But what we, you know, because in a way, and one of the attractions of doing a story like this is to show when two things come into conflict. You know, when doing the right thing is also doing a terrible thing.
And could you tell us what the root is of this? You call it an obsession. What's the root of this obsession?
Well,
you mean with
I think
what's the source?
In this novel, or just generally?
With you personally, I mean, both.
Well, let me give that I feel like I'm sitting having psychoanalysis, so I'll try and give a very honest answer, and then Nicci can give her answer. I think that Nicci and I both come from families where the whole idea of a family is very important. Where, you know, do you remember the great line from the Godfather, where someone says, "Never take sides against the family," and I feel that there's that you don't need to go, if you want to look for drama, you don't need to go and invent a story about a terrorist blowing up the White House. Just go into a family, look at all the lies, the deceptions, the fears that are in any family, in any close relationship. And I feel that one of the things that Nicci and I almost recognised in each other when we met was that feeling of the people you love, the people who you're closest to, are also the people who can, you know, there is fear and conflict in there, and that, I think in a way that feeling.
There's fear and conflict in closeness.
Yes, that's right, and
in intimacy, you mean?
Yes,
absolutely,
absolutely, and yes, and I suppose I would add to that, you know, I feel that, you know, we spend a lot of time and effort, most of us spend a lot of time and a lot of effort defending ourselves against being discovered. You know, that we present to the world a very...
Discovered as?
What we are underneath our surface.
What we really are.
What we really are. And we protect ourselves from ourselves knowing that, as well as from other people knowing that. We hide underneath the surface, and we present ourselves in a very kind of decorous way, and we have certain kind of manners, and we hide away from ourselves, but actually underneath that surface, you know, people are very disordered, and people are scared, and people are jealous, and people are lonely, and people are uncertain. Even the most successful, the most glamorous, the most kind of impregnable seeming person, underneath that there's this kind of roiling mass of insecurity, and actually, that's what I love in people. I love it when there's a little split in the surface, and you suddenly see the real humanity underneath that. I think it's very strange to be human. There's something very strange and very scary and very wonderful about that whole internal, undiscovered landscape. And actually, in most of our books, what we're talking about is in moments of crisis, you know, when people are bereaved or when people are terrified, what you discover is what they really are underneath that makes them really human.
See, I'd put this a bit more negatively. I feel, you know, I think every person, and definitely every family, everyone has their secrets. And if suddenly if all those secrets were exposed, I think society would completely collapse, because everything depends on us keeping things polite, keeping the surface on, not saying what we really think. And that may one of the freedoms, one of the excitements about writing the books we write, is it does give in fictional form, you can actually lift the stone and look what's underneath.
Of course, but when you describe what you call real humanity, is there still beauty in? Oh,
completely, and of course, and I think, but
finding out what really is behind. The curtain.
But I would say that beauty. See, I think if things. Well, sorry. Because this is the way we work together. You know, with me shouting Nicci down. Sorry, could I say very quickly? Is I feel that the things that you know, that life is full of secrets and where we do the wrong thing, and where we're attracted to the wrong people. But that's where art comes from as well. That's where, you know, love. You know, when we write beautiful love poetry, that's a form of insanity. That, you know, if we were all realistic and seeing and just being calm, you know, there'd be no great paintings. You know, so I think that's where I think beauty comes from. this disorder.
Derived.
Yes.
You know, I absolutely agree with that. And also, you know, I guess if you say, you know, if I were to say what I value in kind of life, and it's not, I don't want kind of order and happiness. I want...
You don't want?
No. I mean, I wouldn't say no to happiness, but that's not what I'm seeking. I'm seeking kind of, you know, it's like an emotional journey of discovery of other people and discovery of oneself and being open to everything. And that's messy. That's the messiest thing, is being open to discovering. But that's kind of full life, isn't it?
That's the adventurous
thing.
Okay. May I go one step back to the realm of beauty, to the realm of music? Did you find out during the process of writing that you were going to choose for the realm of music, or earlier?
I think it just felt. I think it's partly, you know, in the way, you know, that sculptors are meant to, you know, you get a lump of stone, you kind of find you almost are trying to uncover what's under it. And I think as we were uncovering what this story was about.
In the beginning,
right at the beginning.
Before we started writing, we knew there were going to be a group of musicians.
Because it was so clear, yes, because we wanted a certain kind of...
I mean, partly it was logistical, you know, it was a very good way of bringing a disparate group of people together. And it was fun, and we love music, and we listened to lots of kind of bluegrass music before beginning writing, and you know, we kind of did bits of work on it, and that was just, it was fun, and it felt like a kind of, you know, lively thing to do. So that's the kind of plot-driven bit. But I think it was during the writing a bit that we kind of realised why it worked so well. It worked so well because you could have these different layers of relationships.
I mean, in a way, one of the points about the book is it takes place. It's very important to the book. It takes place in a summer. It's about when everyone's escaping from the summer. Is this where the excitement of summer is? We all play a game. You can put aside yourself. You put aside your grown-up self. Your job. You can go and take on a different. You know, a different way of living
in an empty city.
Yes, and that was in a way that was also for music. These are people who get together. They don't talk. They get together to throw off that and just to kind of escape into feeling. And it's really about that there's a great attraction about that. In a way, Bonnie, the main character, she's almost going, I want to have fun. She wants to do things. She's doing something that's not her job. She's having a relationship that she knows isn't going to be the big relationship of her life. It's going to be an escape. And I think one of the things we try and show, I don't think in life, Nick and I have this belief, you can't ever really escape. You always bring yourself with you to anything, and there's something always very dangerous about thinking that you're free for a bit. You know, you tend there's always a danger as well as an enticement about that. Oh, you agree, do you? Good.
No. Certainly in this book, I agree.
I'm so shocked when he doesn't totally disagree with what I say.
And how does it work? Do you design the story?
Yeah, what we do when we write together
on
is
a table, or
on a table, on a walk, in a car, lying in bed. You know, we spend several months working out. Often we. And
there's a detailed plan.
Well, I tell you, it's. I mean, first of all, there's what the kind of feeling of the book is, why this book particularly needs to be written, and there's the plot. What could, for instance, be a feeling? Well, for instance, you know, we've written books about, you know, what it is to fall in love, and the kind of madness of falling in love, okay. and how it's so strange that you become so vulnerable when you fall in love. You trust yourself to somebody about whom you know nothing. That's an example, And then we work out the plot, the cast of characters, the narrative voice into which we both write, and we discard lots of ideas. A lot of it's about failure. You know, a lot of writing is about failing to write, throwing things away. And it's only when we know that we've got the same book in both our heads that we actually begin writing. So we can spend longer planning.
And how do you discover it's the same book?
I think you get to it. I mean, it's almost a negative point. There's often when we play around with a lot of ideas before we get to one we think this is an idea we can live with for a whole year writing the book, and some of we've just realised we don't, you know, it may be that one person is more in love with the idea than the other one. Or in a way, if you suddenly realise, it's like being going to a marriage guidance session. If you realise we're not communicating, if you realise that you keep saying, if we keep missing, you start to think, hang on, there's something wrong here, and it's almost like a musical idea. If there are two notes that are just jarring all the time, but if you realise, this is we're going. This is progressing, and you can just have a feeling that
you can feel it can suddenly catch fire, and we get excited by ideas, and we know why it is that we. But
it's all it's intuitive. It's not like a logical process, but you just have a feel.
Magic.
That would be a grand way of putting it.
It's magic.
It is magic. It is. If there is more magic, there is a way. And yes, it's getting its own energy, and so you just it's a feeling
happen,
really.
One of you gets carried away with the ideas of the other one.
Yeah, and we take fire from each other. When you say it's magic, it is a bit magic. I think there's something about writing which feels a bit magic, because it feels that it goes beyond kind of reason and thought, and that it's taking, it takes you with it. And that's very exciting.
I mean, the image that came into my mind is, if two people go on a date and they've never met before, you don't sort of they don't need to analyse how, they don't sit down and write a list at the end. You can tell there's some couples, they just don't hit it off, and there are silences, and another couple, they just find themselves. They just realise the last half an hour they've just been talking, and it's just all working. So that's that, and I think that's a bit like one of my books. It's just you suddenly realise you haven't been making an effort. You're not pushing it. Whereas some ideas, it's like you're pushing a dead donkey up a hill, and I think if it's too much of an effort, there's something wrong.
And what happens when something's wrong?
You just leave it. You leave the dead donkey and move something.
You leave it behind.
You leave it behind. You don't even bury it. You just leave it on the hillside. It's we do two half books and one entire book we've just thrown away because it just didn't feel like it had come alive properly.
So in my words, you're never compromising.
Well, we've really tried to. There is there are times where as Nicci was saying, where we've written half a book, and you kind of think there's something. It's not only often there's something wrong, and you can go back and fix it. But sometimes you think it's deeper than that. We're not excited enough by this book, and then what's the point? You could sort of cobble together and do something, but that's not what that's not why we're writing books.
That's not why we're also. It would be almost impossibly. There's something about writing when you don't want to be writing. It feels so weighed down by hardness. And there's something so wonderful about writing when you think it's going well, and it just kind of gallops away with you.
Also,
we prefer to be with the galloping away book.
Also, there is. I mean, I'm very interested in films because I grew up. My dad's a film critic, and I've sort of always, And one of the curses, if you're halfway through a film, you can't just say, it's not really working, let's go back and do it again, or forget, or try something else, and that so often you see films, or you read about films where that's happened. They've actually realised it's not working, but they've got to finish, they've got to make the film, and and everyone knows it, and it's awful. With a book, you have that freedom. It's very, very painful, and you waste a lot of time, but you've got the luxury. You can.
And I don't think you do waste a lot of time, because I think that
it's not wasted.
That's not wasted. I think throwing something away, it just is it's really valuable as a writer to learn
that's true.
what doesn't work. And in a way that becomes like a part of your foundations. I think that failure.
No, that's true, because we have. I mean, it was the one time we wrote a whole book, completely, finished it, and then in the end we junked it and threw it. But you learn in a way you learn so much from that experience, and you learn about wrong decisions and recognising wrong decisions. So, I hope that 6 months was a positive.
We could have slept.
I could have learned a language in the time, So.
Yeah, we could have learned a musical instrument.
Yeah, that would have been useful, yeah.